time we spoke till now, I've had more friends talk to me about experiencing their pregnancy loss. And
Wow.
I was like, I'm supposed to actually record with someone who specializes in that. So I'm like super curious about what I'm going to ask you and all the information that you will have. But this is a Cozy Womb podcast, and I'm so happy to have you here. I have Aditi, and she is the founder of Pregnancy Loss Support, and she's a grief recovery specialist coach. And she just focuses on women who are experiencing or have experienced pregnancy loss and just support them throughout that process. So welcome to Cozy Womb Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. My first question for you is, what made you interested or got you into helping women who have experienced or are experiencing any type of pregnancy loss?
Okay, can you say that again? You kind of just cut out there. Sorry.
What got you interested in helping women throughout their process of experiencing pregnancy loss?
Well, it's kind of a story, because I don't think that this was ever a part of I know this was never really a part of my plan, but the universe or whatever you believe in, kind of guided me to this point. I used to work as a social worker, and at the time when my partner and I decided to try to build a family, our first pregnancy was of loss. And then our second pregnancy, we also lost. And then our third pregnancy now resulted in my live 7-year-old. But that pregnancy was really met with a lot of disconnection, anxiety, and fear.
Yeah.
And so And it was just really surprised about how little support there was for this journey of pregnancy and infant loss. Like, people didn't really quite know what to say or how to support. And so I felt very isolated at the time. So I knew that I wanted to help people during the grief and loss period, but I didn't know what that looked like at all. So I became a doula, postpartum doula. I became a certified life coach. I became mindfulness meditation teacher. I got all of these, trainings and things, still not having any idea what I was going to do with them. But then a few years back, one of my good friends, she found out that her daughter was not going to live past the 22-week mark, and she asked me to attend the birth. Mm-hmm. So I got to meet her daughter. I was the only person outside of her and her partner who got to meet her daughter, which was such an honor and a privilege for me to be a part of that journey. But what I saw was the after part, her after healing, where she had questions like I did, like, do I want to try again? What if I get pregnant again? That terrifies me. Is there a community for pregnancy and infant loss? Like, what? She was Googling all these things and coming up short. And so that's when I decided to start my for-profit business, which is Pregnancy Loss Healing. From there, I started to just listen to my clients, because my business grew quite dramatically over the years, and I started to listen to my clients. And again, that need of, like, we need more community connection. There needs to be more options on the path to healing for our community, because loss isn't something that just happens and you move forward from. It's something that you carry with you throughout your parenting journey. And so then I founded the charity Pregnancy and Infant Loss Support Center. And that this charity has basically been my opportunity to parent those babies that I didn't get to parent. So it's just been a really powerful healing journey of my own, and watching so many families find healing within our space has just been so powerful and wonderful.
That's really good. And I really like the fact that you've personally experienced what it's like, because then there's more connection as to what you can say, how you think about asking certain things, or what you can offer because you've experienced it. Throughout Cozy Womb Podcast, I've never dabbled into pregnancy loss, or someone going through probably like some type of abortion, because it's not my experience, and I like to talk about things that I've personally experienced. That way I know what to say. So I love the fact that you've had your own personal experience, and it just makes the connection between you and another woman that has experienced it or is experiencing it a bit closer. So, when you talked about having a disconnection, was the disconnection for you from the first pregnancy to the second pregnancy? Do I want to get excited about the fact that I'm pregnant again? Do I want to feel like I'm going to actually see my baby at the end of this alive and well and healthy? Or was it that you were having so much anxiety about being pregnant that you just didn't want to accept the fact that you are pregnant and this can be a possibility?
Yes, I think it's a combination. Oh, sorry. Am I echoing?
No, you're okay.
Oh, okay. It sounded like it was echoing on my end. Sorry. I think it's a combination of all of those things that you said. I had a lot of anxiety. I think the best way that I describe it, and I've heard other pregnant after loss people describe it, is that you're kind of always waiting for that other shoe to drop. It's like your mind and your heart can't accept that this pregnancy will end with a live, living baby in your arms. So you disconnect because it's your mind's way of kind of protecting you, so that if that other shoe was to drop, it wouldn't hurt as bad. I mean, logically, we know that's not true. It's going to hurt no matter what. But I think it makes it, that's where that disconnection kind of comes from, is that disbelief that no, this can happen. This can happen. You can have a child. Your body can do this. That this baby's coming home. I think that was the biggest thing.
Did you find that your friends or your family were supportive of you during that process? And if they were, what were some of the things that did help you?
So I'm very lucky. I have a very, very supportive, I'm very close with my family, and they're very supportive. So I'm lucky in that sense, but even as supportive as my family is, there were still things that they would say that like really were like wasn't helpful. So for example, I remember like going back to my second loss, we had the loss, and I remember my sister at the time, we had a friend who was having a 40th birthday in Las Vegas. And when I found out I was pregnant, I said, well, I'm not going to go. Cause I'm just not going to go. And, then when we lost that pregnancy, I remember my sister coming over and, trying to be supportive, but then her first thing was like, but yay, you get to come to Las Vegas now. Where for me, it was like, the last thing I want to do is go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Right. Like that wasn't a win for me. And even after my child, my living child was born, like my family was supportive. The anxiety that I was having didn't end after his birth. It continued on. And so a lot of people, like my family, they would just kind of say things like he's fine, you're okay, it's all good, like why are you so worried, he's here, he's healthy, right? But it's really hard to switch out of that mindset of loss, from that lens of loss, and into really getting comfortable and knowing that this child is here to stay. I still have moments where I have those anxious moments where I disbelieve that, right? Like, oh my gosh, like whenever he's sick, I go worst case scenario right away.
Yeah.
So even though I had supportive family, there were still a lot of things that were said that, in my opinion, were unsupportive.
So in your experience, and because you can say what you feel like would have helped, what is the most important thing for women to do after they experience the loss of a child?
I think one of the most important for anybody, so like at our center, we support the birthing person. We also support their partners, so anybody who's been impacted by the loss, I think the most important thing that you can do is to talk about it. Talk about it in a space that's safe. So what I mean by that is usually that means talking about it with other people that can relate. Right. So I know oftentimes we rely on our social and family networks to get us through times of trauma and crisis. But unless those people have experienced this type of loss, oftentimes they are saying things unintentionally that are furthering the harm, the mental harm that's happening for you. So I think talking about it and talking about it with people that are safe, the people that can actually relate to it, I think are the key parts in healing. From my own experience, and as I walk clients through this experience, I would say that would be the number one thing.
Okay. And what are some things that friends and family can do to be more supportive throughout the process of a family losing a child?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think a really supportive thing family and friends can do is they can move towards the person even after that initial grief. So because what we usually tend to see as grievers is we have a fair good amount of support within that first 3 months after loss, right? So people are checking in, people are bringing you food. After that first 3, even 6 months, the support tends to drop off because people's lives go back to normal. So as a supportive family or friend, I think consistently, especially throughout that first year, really making sure that you show up, move towards them, really making sure that they understand that, like, hey, it might be 8 months, but I understand that you're still hurting from this, and I'm just checking in on you as I would, at the second month mark. Remembering important milestones. So if there was a due date or a birth date, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmases and holidays like Halloween, acknowledging those children and those babies during those milestones and important dates and holidays, I think is really, really important. Saying the child's name if the parents named the child. And treating these parents, whether they have living children or not, treating them and including them as parents, I think is really, really key. Because I think a lot of times we tend to only treat parents as parents when they have children that we can see, but parents are parents whether they have living children or not.
Yeah, I feel like that's super important. When I would listen to my friends talk about it, sometimes it would surprise me because they're very healthy, very active, and from what I can see, I didn't see anything from the outside wrong and on why this happened. So then I always think before I ask something, how are you feeling? What was different, especially if they already have a child, just to get like some insight. So after you experience a loss as a woman, do you automatically see a pregnancy specialist on your next child, or do you just see a regular OBGYN?
So I'm unsure how it works in the United States, but here in Canada, you have to have 3 subsequent losses before you will be referred to a specialist. So that can be really frustrating for some people because 3 losses in a row. I remember after my second loss, I was like, well, I would like to start seeing somebody and get some answers, but they were like, Nope, it's within the realm of quote unquote normal, but those families who are experiencing it, it doesn't feel normal. And yeah, so it can be tough kind of waiting. But so I'm unsure how it works in the United States, if you get in sooner or not, but in Canada, that's the standard of care here.
I don't like that. I don't like that about children and people losing children, and I don't like that when it comes to diseases like cancer. Even when it comes to women getting mammograms, why is it that they tell you what age we can go ahead and look at your breast if you have the insurance? Like, just look at it, because women get cancer in their 20s, men get cancers in their 30s, 20s. It's not, you have to be in your 40s. So to me, it's kind of like, if you want to go fully preventative, let's get the help now and let's not put it off, because 3 times for a pregnancy loss is hard, because you have to grieve 3 times, and then you have to find the courage enough to try a 4th time.
Yes.
And trust everything that this specialist will say, and everything that you're doing to make sure this process goes the right way. So
yes, and then I think that, and I so agree with you, and I think that when we are telling people that, well, it's not enough, you have to have 3 before you can get in, it's like, it's almost like, oh, this is just so it really I think builds even more distrust in the body and in the process, I think, even more so, because they're just like, oh, this is just normal, but then it's not normal after 3. Like, how do you get to decipher what's normal and what isn't for me in my experience, right? So I agree, I don't like it either.
For you, since you specialize in the grieving process of it, is there a right way to grieve or a wrong way to grieve when it comes to any families experiencing a pregnancy loss?
That's a good question. I always say that there's no right or wrong way to grieve. However, I think that the key part is that you are allowing yourself the space to grieve. Okay, so what I mean by that is, if we are avoiding the grief because it's uncomfortable, or because society isn't giving us space to grieve something that we never got to build a relationship with, or someone that we didn't get to bring home sometimes, that numbing of the grief, I don't think that is helpful, right? So I think it's really, really important that we allow ourselves the space to grieve, however that looks for you. In that capacity, it can be however it looks for you, but I do think that we have to actually move towards it and not away from it.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just one of those things. Even when you go to, let's say, any store to pick up a card, cards are very vague and not specific, and then you still have to worry about finding the right words to say. I just feel like with all of our experiences and things different families go through, I feel like it should get more specific towards, what am I sympathizing about? What can I give? And even just asking, what is it that I can do? Or just letting someone know through however you communicate today. It could be text, face-to-face, calling, or just saying, you know what, if you feel like you want to vent, call me. Don't feel like it's a burden, or don't feel like you're talking too much about it. I don't mind it. I don't want you to feel like you're secluded in this thing that you're experiencing. And for me as a mother, I know a lot of times, even with my friends that are having difficulty becoming parents, they want to be parents. I don't know if I'm sending pictures of me having fun with my kids, or my kids just experiencing kid life does that bother you? You know, is this something you want to see? So I'm always curious on how I can be a better friend throughout the process of what you're going through. So that's why I was like really interested in how can I be a better person about this? And pregnancy loss is just one of those things today that we're more aware of, but at the same time, there's so many reasons for it. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with you. That's why you lost this baby. And a lot of women tend to blame themselves, especially if it's like multiple pregnancy losses. Like, is there something wrong with me? Did I do something wrong? Was I not eating the right things? Or was I not doing the right things? And it's very like self-critical. And if I can know a better way to go about being a better person about it, that's what I want to know. And I feel like everyone should know that, even the people that you work with, the people that see you every day. You know, do you want to be reminded that, hey, I'm just getting this because of this? How do you engage with someone that wants to forget it? Just constantly just knowing the how-tos, I think is very important, because even when you may assume a person is pregnant, you don't want to go up to them and talk about a pregnancy and they're not pregnant. That's rude. You want to know how to approach certain things. And do you recommend that all women who experience a pregnancy loss seek a help center or a grief coach do it?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think that every person's experience of grief and loss and pregnancy and infant loss is very unique. So I know some people who have experienced pregnancy or infant loss, and they've made a peace with it. For like, they were able to make a peace with it, and they didn't necessarily need that external support. However, there's a good majority of people that it does impact to some degree on some level. So I would say I don't recommend everybody who's had loss or experienced loss get support, because again, that might not be what's right for them. But sorry, my dog's barking. But I definitely think if people are struggling in any way, so even if they feel like it's minor, I think then at that point, yes, I would definitely encourage them to reach out and get additional support, because oftentimes society is going to tell them that you're fine, it's okay, right? But if you know underneath the surface that you're not feeling great and maybe there's other stuff happening, then I would highly recommend getting connected to support.
So with everything that's going on this year, I saw that you were a nominee for the Universal Women's Network. How did that feel with all of the work that you're doing?
Oh, that was thank you for that. That was a really lovely surprise, and it felt really good, because obviously it was a recognition of all of the personal hard work that I've been doing this past year, and pivoting, our charity to be offering remote support, and just all of the adjustments that we've all had to go through during COVID. But I think it was really a testament to our community and to every person who has lost a pregnancy or a baby, that like, actually, you know what, our stories do matter, our babies matter, our experiences do matter. So I really saw that nomination as a collective acknowledgement of our community, because I feel like there isn't a lot of acknowledgement, unfortunately, for our community, that like, hey, we are out here and we need support. And so that's how I took that nomination, and I'm very proud of it. And and I was just very appreciative of the nomination.
Nice. And I saw that you started a podcast.
Yes, we started a podcast. we have our first 6 episodes that are recorded. So we recorded what we want with the podcast is to highlight diverse stories of loss. So not only with the birthing person, but like I wanted the partners, right? So like our first story was Stephanie, who was a partner to her wife. So how did that experience impact her as a partner? Then we had people who had, early losses and late losses and kind of everything in between. And then we had Jessica Zucker from I Had a Miscarriage. She came on, and that conversation was just wonderful because it was about talking about the things surrounding loss that people don't talk about, like sex and self-pleasure and body image, right? We hear a lot about body image when a person has a living baby, right? It's always this like sense of like, be kind to yourself and have gratitude for what your body has done. But what about when you don't have that live baby at the end of that? How do you make amends with that body image then? So this space is really for just those people whose stories don't often get told, and talking about those things that people usually shy away from.
I love it. And I'm excited, and I will tune into some episodes and repost.
Thank you.
I just want, just like you, more women to feel like there is a place and there's a group that's out here to help you with it.
Yes.
With that being said, can you tell them where to find your website and any assistance that can be given to them?
Yes. So what I would recommend right now is getting in touch with our the charity that I founded, because I offer my coaching services through the charity and remotely and for free. So if you go to www.pregnancyinfantlossSupportCenter.com, we're shortening our domain name, but so you can go there, or in a couple of months you can go to www.pilsc.org, and you will find my coaching sessions. We have 7 specialized peer support groups, so that are all remotely, that you can join remote from anywhere as well. So we have many people from the United States joining in. So it just depends on where you're at in your journey. You'll find a group that's appropriate for you. And then we also have our newest initiative, which is Pregnancy Loss Support Hotline. So this is a text phone number that you can text from your phone, or you can go to our website for like a live web chat with one of our peer support volunteers. So they've gone through extensive training with us to be able to, and they've walked through the journey of loss themselves. So you can text and get immediate anonymous support that way. That text line is getting quite busy. It's been really, really impactful program, and people again from the United States and all over are able to access that.
Love it. I love it. I hope more women share this and share it with someone who has experienced pregnancy loss, so they know that this resource is out there. And I've always been jealous of people in Canada and their healthcare, because it just makes sense on a human level compared to the States. But I just wish you the best, and I thank you for just making that shift from initially helping people as a social worker and then really getting into, I feel like this is what you're supposed to do.
Oh, thank you. I feel it as well. Thank you. It was so lovely to finally connect with you, Chad. Yeah. And I got to thank you for, you said you haven't really talked about it on the Cozy Womb, but I want to thank you for that, because I think it's just so beautiful when we get to talk about the pregnancy and infant loss in more of like a mainstream setting. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I will check in with you later, but I appreciate this time.
Yes, thank you so much. You have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Hey, it's Anya Dula, and I am the host of Intercultured with Anya Dula. Intercultured with Anya Dula is a podcast that focuses on motherhood, culture, birth work, and travel. And it's just a place for women to come together to discuss our philosophies on motherhood, to discuss our work and birth work, if that's what we do, but mainly to bring women of all different cultures together so that we can talk about how we mother, how we #do motherhood, so that we can learn from one another and learn to love each other. That's really what it's all about. I hope you'll join us. Intercultured with Anya Dula podcast is available on all the major podcast stations. I hope you'll join us. Can't wait to connect.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show, thank you. I appreciate it. You can also find cool, cute Cozy Womb gear on the Cozy Womb shop. It's on Teespring, teespring.com/stores/cozy-womb-shop. And you'll find hoodies, t-shirts, what do you call those? Fanny packs, mugs, everything that I want to give all of my listeners and my supporters during the show is on there for you guys to purchase, okay? I appreciate every penny because every penny does go towards helping my family, especially during a pandemic where I physically can't be out of my house during the week because my children have virtual school. So if you want to support Cozy Womb Podcast, you can support through you getting a little something, and also I getting a little something on the backside. So thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting Cozy Womb Podcast, and thank you for supporting teespring.com. Peace. Let's